Okay, everyone, welcome. I'm going to call the meeting to order. If we could all rise for Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome, everyone. We have special business tonight, the inauguration of three trustees and the village clerk. I'm going to start by swearing in the village clerk, and if you'll go to the front of the room and raise your right hand and repeat after me, and then you'll swear everyone else in. Do I raise my right hand too, Vic, or do anything? I don't have to. Just check it. Michelle.
Thank you, George.
I, Michelle Schmidtke,
I'm Michelle Schmidtke.
do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of village clerk
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of village clerk
of the village of Long Grove, Illinois, to the best of my ability.
of the village of Long Grove, Illinois, to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. All right, no red eyes, so we're good. All right.
Then I guess I do Chris Burrows.
I have to come up in the middle too?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. There's a photo op.
I've got this. I got this. I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me, you all drivers who hit the bridge.
That was this morning. I, Chris Borowski,
I, Chris Borowski,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of village trustee of the village of Long Grove, Illinois,
of the office of trustee of the village of Long Grove in the state of Illinois and the
To the
county
best
of
of my
Lake. To the best of my ability.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Jamil.
Please raise your right
I
hand.
did, thank you.
I, Mohammed Jamil,
Mohammed Jamil,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United
the
States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and Constitution of State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of village trustee
of the office of the trustees of the village of Long Grove
to the best of my ability.
to the best.
Congratulations.
Raise your right hand. I, Ken Tanucci,
I, Ken Tanucci,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of village trustee of the village of Long Grove
of the office of village trustee of the village of Long Grove, Illinois,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability. So help me God.
All right, congratulations, everyone. Welcome. I guess we'll take roll call now officially to document who's all here tonight. And Michelle, I'm going to ask you to do that.
Trustee Borowski.
Here.
Trustee Christmeyer. Here. Trustee Jamil.
Here.
Trustee O'Connor. Here. Trustee O'Reilly.
Here.
All right. We'll go ahead and move into homeowners associations if they're here. Is anyone from Long Grove Woods here? Lisa Anderson tonight? What about White Oaks Estates? Anyone here from White Oak, either online or in the room? Okay. Amber Sisney, I think is the name. No? All right, so now it's time for public comment. I know that there is one person here, Chris Meyer, that had comment for us tonight. Please come forward.
For the benefit of the new trustees, the old trustees are older.
Experienced.
Horrible. Maybe remember me, I was here last fall. I'm Chris Meyer, 371 Cherry Valley Road, Vernon Hill. My property backs up to the Abbott farm, or also known as Gridley Farm. The fence is falling down into my property. I have tried and tried to get remedy. The berm behind my home is, as Greg found out, against code. It's too high, it's too steep, it's impossible to mow, and it's infested with wattle and buckthorn. And Greg and I believe Jeff, you were at my home and findings, and I'd like to know the status at the moment.
Yeah, I didn't know that Abbott did not get back with you. I'll follow up with, which you just told me about. Jeff and I will work on getting with Abbott. I may have to ask our village attorney to, what our options are. I also had conversation with the village manager in, Vernon Hills, who was gonna try to work on it from his side. I'll talk to Kevin and find out where he's at on his end as well, Chris. And then I've got your number, so I'll follow up with you.
Yes, and I can probably go to the meeting, I believe it's next week, and get on their case. It goes around and around and around, and nobody does anything, and it's an eyesore.
We went out, I went out to the site to take a look, and it's a mess.
Yeah.
So I'll do the follow-up, Chris.
All right, thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you for coming.
We're having audio-visual difficulties, so Greg's gonna step away and try to fix the camera in the rear. So, while I'll keep going here, any other public comment in the room? Is there any public comment online? I take silence as there's no more public comment. So then we have, I see two individuals here from the Public Safety Organization. Lieutenant Keith Kaiser, do you have anything for us tonight?
Congratulations.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming. Is there any questions for Keith tonight? No? All right, thanks for what you do. We appreciate it. I see Chief Segala here tonight. Hey, Chief.
Also would like to extend our congratulations to the trustees on behalf of the fire district. Also would like to, and keep you updated, we did have certified election results come back.
Can you maybe come forward a little bit so we can pick it up on the audio, because you're being recorded. Yeah. Don't run out the door now, please.
Our certified election results for our bond referendum are 55.14% in favor. So we are moving forward on a fire station relocation in the area of Aptekissick Road and Route 83. We're currently in negotiations on property, and hopefully, if everything works out right, we have a projected timeline of a move around August of 20.
No, it's great. So, yeah, so you'll be leaving the downtown, the fire station in the downtown. You'll be leaving and building a new one on Aptekissick Road near 83 across from the Sunset Foods, kind of, right?
Correct.
Yeah, got it. Any questions?
We're excited for the public safety and for the opportunity to potentially also then partner on water across Aptekissick. When do you hope to close?
We think it will be a really good partnership. We're hoping to close within 90 days.
Excellent, thanks.
Anything else?
Is there status on the fire station?
I'm sorry, Dave?
The status on the current fire station?
We'll have to evaluate that as we get closer to, the actual moving date. Our hope would be that there might be some way to repurpose that for public use. If not, it will be put up for sale and hopefully be a nice redevelopment for the downtown area.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. All right, moving right along. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. There are, three items on here, the, approval of the April 2023 bills warrant, consideration approval of the meeting minutes, April 27th, 2023, subject to non-substantive revisions, and consideration approval of an application for a license to conduct a raffle submitted by the Misericordia Art and Mercy Home. That'll be at the Buffalo Creek Brewery. Vic, I would ask, there's one trustee that was not at the last meeting. Is it okay for him to approve the meeting minutes?
Yes, it's not a determination that you agree with the minutes, but rather that it's an accurate reflection of what the minutes, transpired at the meeting.
So if somebody wants to remove something from the consent agenda, you can, or moved by trustee,
Consent agenda.
moved by trustee Kritzmeyer, second by trustee Tanucci. Roll call, please.
Trustee Kritzmeyer.
Aye.
Trustee Tanucci.
Aye.
Trustee Borowski.
Aye.
Trustee Jamil. And trustee O'Connor.
Hi.
Okay, motion carried. Now, the next item is the village planners report.
Taylor's not here, I can go ahead and.
You want to go ahead and give us a report?
The PTZBA met on May 2nd. 3305 Old McHenry Road is a residential property. The applicant's looking for a garage setback variance. That has been continued until June 6th. The PCZBA also heard on that same date, 215 through 35 Robert Parker Coffin, Joni's Pizzeria, seeking a special use permit to expand their outside dining area by building an adjacent deck to the current deck. So the deck expansion would add 24 new seats. That has been continued until June 6th, with the applicant being asked to submit a sound mitigation plan. The Architectural Commission will be meeting on May 15th to discuss the reintroduced drawings by Olson Storage for the property at 2798 Route 53. This is a continuation from the AC discussion going back to May of 2022. And then Brothers Field.
Question. I can wait till you finish if you prefer.
No, it's fine.
When things go to the Architecture Commission, I mean, I don't have angst that they're saying we need architecture review. Do the applicants have a sense of what is being sought?
We hold their hands through that afterwards, so yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like many of the reports are like, that changes are requested, change are requested, and of course, I think it would be easier for the applicants if we make it clear, you know, so they can sail through there more easily the first time.
There are nuances with different buildings that the Architectural Commission has some concerns about. This being the first type of storage place in town, certainly no precedent. So they looked at it closely, and Olson Storage went back to the table, and they've come up with some pretty good plans. So, and our team took them through it too, to make sure. So,
You know, can I make a comment though? I think though we do need to, you know, and I was looking at Vic because I want to make sure that we provide perhaps better guidelines so that we don't. It seems like we're going off on tangents on some of these things, and I don't know how we best do that. I'm looking at you both because I know we have within our code, but I just want to make sure we just don't go off. And I sense a little bit of that going on lately. So.
You know, I confess, I should probably go to a meeting, and I have not, but I'm wondering, are we trying to legislate taste versus our guidelines? So. Yeah,
it's just something to think about, and I know I've listened in afterwards on a couple of them, and I just, you know, so obviously they're within their range, but I mean, can we guide them more so that it doesn't go off the, you know, the path somewhere, which happens sometimes. But then again, it happens in our board meetings too, so. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
340 Old McHenry Road, it's tentative that it's going back before the Architectural Commission. I met with the Brothers Field development team. They took some advice or suggestions, I should say, from the Architectural Commission and came back with a different type of rendering utilizing a barn on the property versus the red oak. I sent that to the board to just, you know, so the board could get a sense of what they were looking to do. If they choose to go the route with the barn, and we being staff in Brothers Field are gonna have a further discussion this week, it would be my direction to them to represent to the board because the concept's a little bit different. So,
The barn's down.
it will need some work. It will definitely need to come in compliance with the ADA requirements as well as fire code requirements. It does need some work. There is a question of the Red Oak, building was going to have a, food service in it. This one would not. So it would be almost a bar tavern type of setup.
It's a choice they can make if they want to invest in it.
Yes, exactly.
Any questions? I take it there's no questions, so we're gonna keep moving ourselves along. And the next item on the agenda is the village engineer's report, presented by village engineer Perry.
Thank you. So the engineer's report is in the board packet, a couple things to highlight tonight. First of all, number 2 is the 2023 road maintenance program, in some coordination with the IDOT earlier today. It's moving forward through the review, but it's a little bit more on the lagging side is what I took out of the conversations that I had with them. So I'm gonna push for a timeline so we can get this thing out to bid, so we can take advantage of summer construction. So it's May 9th, so that's not lost on me on that. So once I get additional information, I will pass that along. Jumping down, number 10 is the Aptekissick Road widening project for the Lake County Division of Transportation. They're still looking to get that under construction with Lake County grading at the end of June. We had some coordination with Lake County DOT earlier today to schedule neighborhood meetings. Initially, Lake County DOT was going to have them, and they said that they don't, but we asked them to have these meetings, so we're trying to work out some dates with them to have a neighborhood meeting affecting subdivisions, and I think there's a few others that'll be invited. Greg, let me know if I miss any, but Sunset, certainly, probably the Vineyard as well, the Briarcrest, they have the access there.
Valley Bunyan.
And Valley Bunyan, correct.
What about the mulch center?
Mulch center?
Mulch. The property over near the vineyard?
They're allowed to
Right
operate.
next door there?
Yeah.
Yep. Reach out to them as well.
Eastgate and Bridlewood as well.
Counter subdivision that is later on in the agenda, so I'll yield time for that. And then on number 17B, we have the stormwater wetland violation at Pulse Nursery. Met and coordinated with them last week. They're very sympathetic to removing the material that was inadvertently placed in the wetland and the wetland buffer, so we're looking to have that done by June 16th. They just asked for a couple of weeks to get that done due to, their current workload. That was reasonable. And then, other than that, a few different permit updates, but any questions? To take those.
I take silence as no questions. All right, we'll keep moving. You're off the hook right now. So, the next item on the agenda, and we're gonna ask Carolina Cho to come forward, is the annual MS4, which is the separate storm sewer system permit that we have to get, right? And there's a presentation. Let me share the presentation, and I'll share my screen. Hold on a second. Let me didn't work well. Find my.
Did you challenge him to go faster after yesterday morning?
What happened yesterday morning?
Guinness World.
I think I almost missed the meeting because it was done in less than 5.
And I will apologize. That's the first one I've missed, and I didn't have it on my
You could have
calendar.
said you were late.
I didn't even have it on.
Being 10 minutes late.
I
you
didn't even
would've
have it on
missed
my calendar, and I heard it. I'm like, oh, it was just how all the stuff was going on, right? So.
Chief Segal had made it.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you for making me feel bad.
I know.
I appreciate that.
We told them breakfast.
I know it was a riveting meeting, there was a lot discussed, and it was over in 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Missed a lot.
we did everything that we needed to do.
Yes, there you go, so, all right. Carolina, do you want to take over before I derail this whole meeting into somewhere we don't want to go?
Yeah, sorry, I apologize to everyone behind me, it's kind of a spot with the camera. But I'm Carolina Cho, I'm with Gaywalt Hamilton Associates, so I get to spend a lot of time with this guy. So I do the MS4 program for the Village of Long Grove, and the program is in place, because of a permit through the IEPA, or Illinois Environmental Protection Agency. And what MS4 is basically stormwater, but what it stands for is Municipal Sewer Storm Sewer System. And the purpose of it is to protect our stormwater from pollution, prevent pollution, amend any pollution issues.
Yep, next slide.
Yep, thank you. These are some examples of things that we look for, pollution related. So these are all different storm drains. Different examples include soap suds, oil sheens. Erosion isn't necessarily pollution, but is a structural issue that we look for while we're out there. And then any sort of blockages from leaves, tree branches, twigs, et cetera.
You know, just a question though, you're only looking at the public storm sewers, right?
Correct.
Not the storm sewers that are maintained by private HOAs?
Correct.
Okay.
Unless there's some sort of agreement between the village and the HOA, then otherwise we don't.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep.
Should there be?
Typically it's up to the HOA. That's seen more commonly in townships that have highway departments. A little easier for them. So these are a couple examples of outfalls within the village. They come in a lot of different shapes and sizes, a lot of different materials. So most commonly we see the RCP or the reinforced concrete pipe on the right, and those are supposed to have grates on top to protect from large debris and also prevent children from finding their way in there, because that does happen. And then the one on the left is just a metal pipe. There's also PVC, plastic or HDPE, which to be honest, off the top of my head, I can't remember what that stands for. Do you remember?
High density polyethylene pipe.
Thank you.
There you go.
That. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine.
We're talking about more different types of pipe. Let's just move on, okay?
These are just maps that I created that log the locations of stream banks and basins that we also look at in the area. So we just look at public again. In stream banks and basins, we're looking at water quality and also just the condition of both of those, so erosion, et cetera. Yep. This is the inspection form that we use. We use a program to fill it out. It auto-populates, and then we keep track of it in our records every year. Yeah. So there's supposed to be a new permit update every 5 years. They have not updated it since 2016. They're a little bit behind. One of the potential updates is that we saw a draft back in 2021 of what they might do, change-wise. And one of those things, next slide.
Who's they?
Illinois EPA,
Thank you.
Environmental Protection Agency, yep. Sorry, the map's a little off, it should be a little farther south, but they might require villages to be members of watershed work groups, which the Village of Long Grove currently is. The cost is based upon the acreage within the watershed. But if that is a requirement, we're already fulfilling that. If not, there's a potential that we wouldn't have to be members of that anymore, but there are benefits to it. The group does a lot of monitoring and maintenance of the stream bank itself, which overall is good for our water quality. So there are benefits to being a member, but I do understand the village is large and it does have a cost to it. So based upon that permit, which doesn't look like it'll come out this year, we'll see what next steps will take.
It's based on population, that's how they do the permit, or?
No.
Acreage.
Oh, acreage.
Acreage in the watershed, and
Got it,
It's gone for the last 2 years consecutively. So
Yeah.
got it.
I've got the invoice, I'd have to stop.
We do belong.
we do.
Yeah, we pay.
Over 6, I know.
Yeah, it's 7,000.
Well, you know, that's interesting, because you think about, if you could have a smaller footprint, but have a lot of concrete and spew off a lot of water, and you could have big open spaces like us,
Right.
we'd end up paying more even though we're absorbing more. Makes no sense, does it?
I think that's just the easiest way for them to determine how each village is gonna pay, or each municipality. Yeah, I don't know why they decided to do it that way, but it might make more sense, I guess, maybe for them to do miles of stream.
Because we have those presentations also, right?
Yes,
Yeah, I recall those too.
yeah.
Okay.
So where are our stream banks? What is it, do you know offhand? What?
I'd have to look at the maps that I have in there, but we inspect different portions of it every year.
Like Indian Creek or
Right, it'd be, right.
Buffalo
Yeah.
Creek? Yeah, yeah.
Is there a bridge over that?
It's still there and it's doing very well.
But the reason it's gone up the past 2 years is actually because we're being required by Illinois EPA to put together a nutrient assessment reduction plan. So once that plan is over and done with, the cost should potentially go back down. How much, I'm not sure, because of course it raises each year anyways, so.
All right.
That's all I have.
Oh, that's the end of it.
When you find the structural things, those aren't part of, you're scanning as an extra project, right?
Just the structural is in addition to
Yeah.
what we're already looking at.
And what do you do with that then?
So every year, if I find any structural issues, then I put them together, summarize, this is location, this is what the issue was, and then send it to either Jeff or to Ray.
Gotcha, thank you.
No more questions?
How would I find out what it is you look at when you're in the village? Because we have all these streams and there's like a little waterfall up off the.
You mean which one, like exactly the location?
Yeah.
I can send them to you if you want. Every year I decide, we do 20% of outfalls basins and stream banks, so that way over 5 years, we get the 100% done.
I see.
But,
That'd be
that's,
great, sure.
yeah, it's just on rotation, so I can send it to you.
That'd be great, thank you, appreciate it.
Have you found any streams that are congested with fallen trees and branches and things?
In Long Grove, not to my knowledge, this is only my second year doing it. But if we do, we always contact the village to let them know, hey, you've got a pretty significant blockage that's causing flow issues and could potentially cause flooding issues within, X.
And with Lake County Stormwater Management, would that be a grant opportunity to get?
I would say probably not. Get a blockage cleared? I guess it depends on the.
So there are, periodic blockages that happen, usually they come to my desk somehow, some way, get them taken care of, and either they're, the 20% that Carolina's not looking at, or they get taken care of before she's out there, so yeah, they do happen. I know, beaver blockages happen regularly.
Yeah.
Lake County Stormwater Management does offer some financial assistance for clearing those.
That working?
It's not a grant, they do have, like, it's a nominal $500 that they'll help contribute to, the small blockages and clean up, just as a, kind of an incentive to owners to do that, because a lot of the creeks, Long Grove is, the typical, what I'm gonna say, that, the creeks aren't publicly owned, they're on somebody's.
It's the PC camera that's working, correct, sir?
So they do that, if they bring them to us, usually it's, clean it up, you can call, so, and you get $500, so we'll take care of them now.
A homeowner's lot would go to the middle of the creek possibly?
Correct. There's quite a lot of that.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. I saw that when I was with the Park District also.
I'm just thinking of.
Yep, don't worry about it.
As Buffalo Creek flows behind my home, and it's under Sumter Drive and then into the golf course, and that's obvious, that in the golf course, that would be owned by the golf course, but then under the road would be village, and then it would be.
Showing up on the,
Let's do.
no, the camera, something, the camera connection, I don't know what it is, because you have the laptop camera function.
Learn something new.
That's what you're showing back. Thank you, by the way, for that report, appreciate it, well done, thank you. All right, I'm gonna keep us moving,
Painting things, should we, a few years back, I was walking here on the creek, and there was some oil slick looking stuff in the water. I did take a picture of it. I suppose in hindsight, it probably should have reached out to the village. Would that be the path to take?
Sure,
Okay, and then you guys let them know?
exactly.
There's also, on our website, we have an MS4 website, I'm assuming there's probably a link on Long Grove, but we have the spot rating reports.
Okay,
things as well.
awesome, thank you for your,
And that'd be great if you did that, that helps us out a lot.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so, the consideration, the next item agenda is, consideration, approval resolution approving and authorizing execution of a letter, nope, wrong one. Discussion, consideration, approval of a resolution approving the selection of Gaywald Hamilton
No,
for, nope. I'm looking at my agenda, so did it?
12.
We're going to 12 first, okay, got it. So this is the discussion, consideration, corrective action for town subdivision, drainage stormwater issues, thank you. Go ahead. I was moving us along even further.
At our last meeting, we had discussion about action to be taken, regards to towners. The village attorney, provided us with information as to where our legal standing is as it relates to, action that can be taken. The majority of the board looked at the possibility of the $100,000 solution, which Jeff will talk about in a minute. But as part of that conversation, the two things that were asked of staff were, one, to put together a brief synopsis of the other drainage issues we were having in town that I'm ready to speak to, and to identify potential funding sources for any corrective action work we would do. The funding sources I'll hit first. I know Jeff is meeting with Stormwater, SMC, later this week, Friday, to discuss possible grant funding to assist with any corrective action the board moves forward with. I am still trying to coordinate its conflicting schedules with the state representative's office for walkthroughs on not only Towners, but the 4 other properties that I'm going to speak to in a moment here, to also look for opportunities for funding for any potential corrective action the board chooses to take. The Towner subdivision we talked about at the last meeting, I'm sure Jeff will want to expand on that, or add more to it after I provide the other locations. But I provided the board with a memo sometime this afternoon, and it's in the board package. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll just hit the highlights of it. The properties where we've had drainage issues and flooding issues over the past month are Cobblestone subdivision. There's a home that has backs up to Hawthorne Woods. There was some drainage issues with the water being drained into an area behind the home, and then it was coming to a level that was, the homeowner was worried that it was going to compromise their property. That has been corrected. Hawthorne Woods did a pretty darn good job of draining it. Stormwater management came out. Jeff was out there. I was out there. We met with the homeowners. They were pretty pleased. But there's still another piece of this, of corrective action that has to be looked at, in its restoration of wetland area. And Jeff and I are trying to work through that right now and figure out our next steps. Promontory Drive, there's a homeowner there. Jeff visited the site in late February. They are having problems with their wetlands that they need to look at maintaining. Southwest of the house, what happens is the house is higher than the wetlands. It's flooding to an extent that it's coming up to base level of the house, and there's water coming into the house. So when Jeff looked at it, 3 things that he pointed out was that there's some maintenance work that needs to be done by the Park District property south of Route 22. Jeff has reached out for the Park District, but hasn't gotten any response back from them.
I actually have a question about that. Do you mean south, or do you mean north of 22?
South.
South, at Longview Meadow. Because I know there's Park District property just to the north of 22 behind that house as well.
And then there was a suggestion to make contact with IDOT to make sure the culverts under Route 22 were functioning properly, not saying that that was a cause of the flooding, but to make sure that they were functioning properly. IDOT did go out and check in the last couple of weeks, and said the culverts were in fact functioning properly. And the last piece of this is to maintain the wetland on the property southwest of the house. Question was posed, and Jeff and I touched on this, but I wanna make sure I'm clear, that the wetlands, belong to the subdivision, if I'm correct. They are not, publicly owned. So it's going to require the subdivision to do maintenance on it, however that property, we should do it. And, so I just wanna make sure the board's aware of that. And then, 3610 Rolling Glen, it's in the Crestview subdivision. Their problem is a culvert that's not being properly maintained and causing water to overflow into the road. We're trying to take corrective action on that with the owner right now. And then the last one is 3915 Beaver Run Drive, Beaver Creek Estates. It's almost identical problem to what the Cobblestone property had. It's Kildare's drainage that's coming to this gentleman's backyard and causing flooding. I've reached out to Mike Talbot over in Kildare. I know their engineer too, so I'll be reaching out to him. So we're working on those. The Towner subdivision, when you look at it, when you look at all these problems that we've been looking at over the last month, is really unique in theirs, in what causes their flooding. You know, we've got the two municipalities, Hawthorne Woods and Kildare, that there's some issues with. We've got a wetland restoration or maintenance that the HOA has to take care of, and then we've got a culvert that the property owner has to take care of on that. So, Jeff?
So going to Towers?
Yes.
Kind of just to add on to what Greg had mentioned, I'm gonna meet with Lake County Stormwater Management on Friday to discuss the grant on that. And, you know, two things that I'm hoping to get out of that are, you know, how likely is it that this thing can receive some grant funding? And what's the timing of it? Because typically, you know, Lake County Stormwater has two grant programs. They've got what's called their Watershed Management Board grant that, you know, functions on their fiscal year cycle. And then they've also got the Stormwater Infrastructure Repair Fund, SURF for short, which is on a rolling calendar. So, this Watershed Management Board grant would be great. However, that, you know, wouldn't get funded until construction of 2024. So there's urgency to this issue. So I want to, you know, stress that this needs to get into the Stormwater Infrastructure Repair Fund, which is more rolling, and it's at the discretion of the Executive Director of Stormwater Management Commission to award those projects. So we get that information on Friday and bring that back to the board. The other thing is going on the discussion that we had at the last board meeting. We discussed the 12-inch pipe to offer some relief to the rear yards on the north side of the stage. You know, basically just to keep low flow runoff on the south side of the road instead of directing it into those backyards. So we're running through the calculations to determine, you know, what level of protection that offers, how many, you know, storms, you know, in terms of percents and things like that. Unfortunately, I didn't have that calculation done today. I reviewed it, we're almost there, but there was one thing in there that I wanted to get corrected before I shared the results of that. So I'll have that by the end of this week. So I'll share that with Greg so he can share it with the board as well.
Anything more we can do in the short term?
You know, in the short term, I touched on it at the last meeting, but, you know, for the drain tiles to be investigated to, you know, see what relief that can offer and where that goes. I know the focus then shifted to the 12-inch pipe, the analysis of that and what that can do. Having the drain tiles investigated, so that they function, similar comment to other drain tiles we have in the village, that even if it's a 4-inch pipe underground, it's not gonna take a lot of water, it does take some water. So making sure that those are functioning would be a good step as well.
The one thing also that I think Trustee Kritzmeyer had asked the question about cleaning the culverts. I went back to the township and asked them what would it cost to do our culverts for all our public roads, and they said the ones that are coming underneath the driveways, owned by the, property owners, I said yes. Said it would take them a minimum of 3 people, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for at least a month. And, so to get our streets, not the, private held roads. I've asked them to put together some, dollars for me. They're starting off at about roughly $50,000.
So for the properties whose culverts have been supplemented, shall we say, over the years, so it's easier to mow, in communities like that, what, do we have any recourse to ask or force an owner, whether they did it or not, you know, maybe the previous owner, whatever, to remedy that? Because I get the impression that there are pieces to this puzzle, and if they can all come together, the stormwater can be controlled better.
As was described in the previous meeting, some of this falls right on the property owners. You're absolutely right. And if they don't take the corrective action or don't come together with their neighbors to do the right thing when it comes to the water flow, that can absolutely be a problem. I defer to Vic on the question of what our ability to force the issue or to do the corrective action and then come back to the property owner for it.
Right. How does that work?
It'll be like,
If the conditions reach the level of a nuisance, and there's a subjectivity involved in that, then we could certainly pursue some kind of enforcement and/or corrective action for which we would seek recovery for the abatement of it. Now, there's a risk of spending money to correct it and then trying to get it back, and then you're chasing after dollars all that time, and not always assured of being able to recover the cost of enforcement. So, ideally, if you have that kind of problem, you use our typical enforcement tools of citations or warnings and, if necessary, actual ticketing and penalties until someone does something. But we've not always received the degree of cooperation that we would hope from various residents.
we'd really rather,
Even then, what are the specs? You know, how do the resident know what they need to do?
Well, if it's a matter of clearing a culvert, that's a little more discreet. If it's a matter of certain drainage limitations because of grade and the like, that might just be the condition of the property. And then you have to identify what in fact is the nuisance involved. Is it that there's standing water, essentially, is some kind of vector developing in there, I suppose, and then that would be a different approach than if we're saying that they have allowed a condition to result in damage to another's property. That's usually a private nuisance, not a public nuisance, and we wouldn't be involved in it.
Right.
I mean, the circumstances would determine whether we would have any role and what that role would be.
Yeah, it's possible that the homeowner doesn't even know.
yeah,
Well,
what
go ahead.
we have is compliance, not enforcement.
Right.
Well, and it seems like we have, what, is it 5 areas or 4 areas that you noted?
4 in addition to towners.
In addition to towners, right, so 4 other ones. So, and they all have area, unique things that need to be addressed, and we can work with the homeowners, and so forth. And if they don't address what they're supposed to do, then we can take enforcement action. But we're still gonna have the same thing in towners. If we figure out a way to finance the pipe, the culverts downstream are gonna have to get cleared out, or the problem just moves to somebody else's property.
Yeah, we can, not a single solution.
If I recall from Jeff's analysis last week, the culvert will address certain problems, but it will not address the majority of the concerns that residents have expressed.
Right. Right, it's like, gotta have multifacets, at least that one.
So where we're at now is you're looking to see if we can get grant funding, how easy it would be to get, and getting feedback, and then bring that back before the board, to make a decision on, there's a $100,000 expense, how do we approach it?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Is everyone okay with that?
And can that be done through an SSA?
It could be. But this is on our the pipe would be on our property, right?
It's on village.
Well, for an SSA, it's always going to be a public.
Right.
Yeah,
So that would be a way of financing it.
but it is on our property though. This is unique, it's not private, public.
Yes, no, I
Yeah,
understand.
it could be an option. Yeah.
Sorry to clarify, it's on our property or on our right of way?
It's on our right of way, but that is village property.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
If they give you a very positive answer on Friday, what does that mean for timing?
I'm gonna find that out on
Okay.
Friday as well.
Okay.
Like I said, if it's in the surf, bucket, if you will, the executive director can move on that pretty quickly.
Okay.
His authorization would need to get, ratified by, the county board, but he's got the authority to, much like, it happens time to time, approve it and then, after the fact, ratify it.
The amount of money is so outrageous that, I have not heard a call for projects, from the, members of the General Assembly yet where they want shovel ready. I haven't heard any of my colleagues talking about those either. So I'm not sure it's happened yet, and that's what I'm hoping we'll get from either State Representative Syed or, the senator to turn around and say, you've got something shovel ready, and if it's a 50,000, and we're able to take it without.
All right, we did get a place to move on. Are we good? Any, Mr. Meals?
Just,
Chris?
I know Vic was talking, all those culverts, south of 7056, that's the reason the front yard floods, because those culverts aren't flowing, so it just builds up in their front yards, and then it comes across the street, floods out 7056. I have personally talked to those, I've been, talking to the village for years on it, I have talked to those residents. As you can see, this neighbor talking to a neighbor really hasn't done anything.
Yep.
That's why I, as the board has said, and I'm asking for some help here, I understand, the neighbor-to-neighbor idea is not gonna work, because it's, and those neighbors have all been talked to, and nothing's been done.
Nope, I appreciate the feedback, and, I was personally out there. I know what you're experiencing, so let's see what we can do here. Thank you.
I have one more question, and then
Sure.
that culvert goes underneath the road, it takes the water from the south side of the street to the north side of the street, and it goes between the yards and back behind. Would that if this does go through and they put the 12-inch culvert in, would that go back to the 8-inch culvert that was raised higher up to be an overflow and not just constant water? I don't think we're there yet to give a full answer to that, but, that could be one option. Another option would be to avoid road damage, grout a smaller pipe in the bigger pipe, and position that one higher up, because that road was just resurfaced a few years ago. Yeah. So, to cut the road, just to take the pipe out, if there's another option, if that's where that goes.
Can I ask a question, though? If I understood it correctly from the last meeting, even if that pipe stays there, the bigger pipe, you're gonna put this new pipe that's down lower, right? So it's gonna pick the water up, and then the overflow will go across the road.
That 18-inch pipe will remain as the overflow pipe.
Right, but it'll be up higher.
Yep, yeah, there's the 9 inches of difference between.
So
Exactly.
it'll be an overflow going across if if there's too much water. I don't know if
So
that's.
there's gonna be like a dam type thing?
A dam is a good word, I like that, yeah, that's what it is, yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Somehow a design is meant to say, fill the 12-inch first.
Well said. And then the other question I have is, I know by today's water standards from the municipality that I talked to, the engineers, they say in today's standards that water shouldn't be directed onto, or
right-of-way water should not be ever directed onto a private property unless it's heading towards a water retention or a stream or a river. Do you agree with that?
I'm not gonna disagree with that. You know, that's how, you know, things are designed nowadays with current standards, with, you know, draining them into an easement, draining them into a well-defined swale or route. And much like we talked about at the last board meeting, the subdivision predates even the Village of Long Grove. So, standards were different then.
Well, I understand that, but, you know, the village brought in the town subdivision in 1986, and that was an 8-inch pipe. And then the Village of Long Grove, when they repaved that street for the first time, put the pipe in that is there now.
So I haven't been able to get all the files for that, but, you know, that's something I wanna look at as well.
Thank you.
I just want to understand what you just said. Pipe that goes between your house and your neighbor's house was put in by the village?
There's not a pipe between the houses, it goes underneath the road.
Yes.
Yes, the first time Long Grove repaved Osage Road, they replaced that pipe to the current concrete pipe that's underneath. It used to be a metal 8-inch, what they call a tin whistle.
Yes.
And before the street was repaved, I was presuming Long Grove, because Long Grove paved the repaved street, replaced that 8-inch culvert with what is there existing now.
The 12-inch one.
Yep, it's bigger.
18
Yeah.
And so it
And
takes,
he shoots it
so
between your
before,
property.
water used to stay on the other side of the street until it built up.
Yep.
Now, as the water comes down from basically a pond at the end of the street, it's a constant flow. And right now, even though it's been so dry, there is still a little bit of water that has come underneath the street and is just sitting in the right of way, which is fine. That's where the water is supposed to stay. But like even with this, you know, we had a little under an inch of rain over the weekend. Wasn't a massive flow, but the problem is between the homes, it's just so saturated, you get a little bit of water and you automatically have ponding.
Yeah, that's sponges.
It needs a chance to dry out, so when you get rain, it can soak it.
Right. And the covered is the reason water's going between your two properties.
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
And like I said,
Yeah.
back when Vernon Township was in charge of everything, which I know after talking to Jeff and everything else can't happen anymore because it's just too expensive, but they used to come in regularly and do ditch maintenance. So the water used to stay on the south side of the road all the time, would go all the way down until it hit the street has a natural downflow when you go a little bit further.
Yeah.
And that little 8-inch pipe that I was talking about only flowed onto the north side of the road on your extremely once every 5-year monsoons. Now, since there has been any additional years, et cetera, our properties are constantly soaked.
Thank you. I'm gonna keep us moving, here. Thanks for your comments tonight.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is now it's time for the discussion, consideration, approval resolution approving the selection of Gaywald Hamilton for the operation of the village water supply system. I'm gonna turn it over to Greg because I was looking at this over the weekend going, it was a 5-year contract, and I'm like, we're in the process of potentially getting Lake Michigan water. There's a grant funding bringing Lake Michigan water, and why would we sign a 5-year water operating agreement? And so I'm gonna turn it over to Greg on the conversations that have occurred with Gaywald Hamilton to bring everyone up to speed, and then maybe propose that, we do something different than what was in the board packet.
So staff is requesting no action be taken on this agenda item this evening. At the time the RFP was drafted, there was no indication that the village would have the financial capacity to move forward with the plan for the Lake Michigan water connection through the village of Buffalo Grove. Moving forward to the village's request for community project funding by Congresswoman Schakowsky appears to make the plan a little closer to becoming a reality. Not knowing that what the village's needs might be post the Lake Michigan connection, such as class of operator, which I think we said we would take a step back on that operator from a B to a C at that point. Hours of operation, the potential of the IGA with Buffalo Grove for water operations, a potential for that. It's been thought that entering into a multi-year agreement this time would probably not be the prudent approach. I've asked GHA to provide the village with a one-year extension for water operations. During this time, the village should be able to get a sense of what those operations are gonna look like going forward, especially if there is a Lake Michigan connection. The extension, will have a Class B operator, increase of $65,000 to $80,000 because that was in the 5-year plan, or in the 5-year RFP proposal, response.
Sorry, can you repeat that a little bit again?
$65,000, we went from a Class B to a Class C to a Class B operator. The cost of that operator has gone up. The RFP response would have called for a jump of $65,000 to $80,000 for that operator.
Yep.
So with the one-year extension, we would take that $80,000, because of the increase in cost for that 1 year.
So same rate, just not the 5-year term.
1 year, exactly.
Got it.
That's correct. Staff would look to have the 1-year extension. Jeff and I already talked about this, before the village board at the May 23rd meeting for discussion and consideration. Keeping in, just to, keep this out there as a point of information, October is when the new budget cycle starts for, Washington. And that's where this community project funding's in. It's in the appropriation for the October 1 budget. So.
Let me just go around the room. Any comments?
So that means the grant potentially wouldn't be available until after October 1st, right?
Yeah, the money will, absolutely, the money will not be available until after October 1st.
Chris?
I'm okay with that extension, smart thinking, glad you guys are talking about it. I did have some questions on some of the other costs, but it doesn't really affect the labor rate of the operator. Questions are like paint, solvents, like why are we budgeting for paint and solvents? I don't understand that. Or equipment parts and fitting of $1,500 and we don't know what's gonna work or break or not break. I guess some of those budget items on that proposal are a little bit strange to me.
And before anybody at the water department or operations spends anything, it comes to me. I scrutinize every single, request for parts, repair, cleaning, so it all comes to me.
I get it, but who's painting the water equipment? It just seems odd to me, right?
It was in the specifications, we kept it in there, but, you know, we made some tweaks to the specifications off of previous comments on the RFP. What was disappointing was the lack of response to the RFP.
Yeah, of course. So no, I have no issue extending it, and I think that's a smart thing to do. So I'm good with that. But, again, the budgeted items are just budgeted items, for the next spending.
Right, that's correct.
Trustee Chris Meyer? Okay, nobody else? Okay. All right, I'm gonna just keep us moving then. So the next one is discussion and consideration, approval of a resolution approving and authorizing execution of a letter of intent and concurrence with Lake County for sidewalk installation. This is on Arlington Heights Road. I will call your attention to the fact that there was a different dollar amount in the actual resolution. It was lower. It should be $39,789.15. I know Greg sent a note out on that today. I had seen that over the weekend. I highly recommend that we take advantage of this to extend the sidewalk on the west side of Arlington Heights Road. If we don't, I mean, it's 80/20, you know, we won't do it, right? It'll never happen. And it provides that connectivity, continued connectivity, allowing people from the north on Arlington Heights Road to get all the way to Buffalo Creek for that matter. I just think it's the right thing to do. Anytime we have these opportunities, we should be doing it. So I'll open it up to comment, and I just wanted to, I'm the one that asked to have this put back on the agenda, so.
Yeah, I'm in favor of it. I feel too that another benefit of that sidewalk is we're incentivizing anybody who wants to get to that area where the parking is tight, as we are aware of. Use your feet. You know, whether you walk or whether you bike, they don't have to get in the car, and they from there, so I'm all for it.
I am strongly in favor, and that's not just because I live near there, but because I think, you know, I've told you, ultimately, I'd like, when we budgeted for a pathway plan, I know you're gonna have more hands-on for that, but my hope is that we can have pathways that take us from the south end of Long Grove to the north end of Long Grove, east to west, and that would be part of that south all the way up to north.
Okay.
And hopefully the neighboring communities will connect up.
Exactly.
Trustee Jamil, do you have any comments? No?
I'm okay with it.
Okay.
I'm supportive as well.
Supportive?
Wow, I feel I'm deja vu. We did talk about this, like the same meeting we talked about the Aptekissick sidewalk extension.
Yep.
And I thought we were pretty much in favor of poo-pooing this because we have a sidewalk just parallel on the east side of Arlington Heights Road. Anybody who wants to traverse that corridor literally has to use the intersection to get across the light, you know, at the light, across the street, and then south, across the street on the east side, and then cut back across. So I don't know why we're building a sidewalk in parallel with a sidewalk that's literally across the road. I'd rather spend this money up north. George, I try crossing Diamond Lake Road and I get run over. I'd love to have a sidewalk on Diamond Lake Road. I'd rather spend that money somewhere else. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be argumentative with you, but that's what I feel about it. So when I saw it on the packet, I was like, this is deja vu. We poo-pooed this at the same time we
actually agreed to defer.
We did, we tabled it, because it was going nowhere fast, and I said, let's just take it off the docket. I put it back on. If we don't do it now, we're not gonna do it. So, I'm sensing there's enough support.
I think it's a steal, and I also, and I'm sorry, you know, this is part of our property, this is part of our village, and I think connecting that up, especially on the side that goes over there and can connect up into the Forest Preserve and Country Club Estates, and absolutely, I want something on Diamond Lake Road too.
Right.
That's why I said I want but last time, we can't have this about south versus north. This is an opportunity to get basically $1 for 20 cents of good
Or
sidewalk.
a sidewalk we don't know how many people are actually gonna use.
It will connect that Forest Preserve up to the downtown area. It'll connect it up to 83 and Arlington Heights Road.
Right, but you could do.
You could use it,
Street.
Well, I could use it, and I also think whatever we do with the South 15, we need to make sure that they put some sidewalk in there so that 83 starts getting a little safer, because that is very, and then once it connects up from Arlington Heights on 83 up to Robert Park Road, now we've connected that with downtown, and then with anything else that would go up Old McHenry. So to me, it's part of the puzzle. That's how I see it. We respectfully disagree.
I understand, we could start the puzzle up down the north and work our way south too, couldn't we?
This is an opportunity to get it for 20
I
cents.
understand, but what's the plan to get the north connected?
I just said, we put the
When-
budget, like,
when is
to have,
that? When
to
is that?
create a plan first.
When
So
is that?
the plan, we just voted the budget that started May 1st
Yes.
to create a pathways plan,
We don't
comprehensive.
need to argue, you get 4 votes.
I think that the answer to your question is if we can get a grant for safe pathways to schools, which we didn't get, what was it, 3 or 4 years ago, because the response was our path to the countryside school was too dangerous to put children on the sidewalk there. But if we could piggyback with Mundelein, because the school is right behind you, their school, and along Diamond Lake Road, then we just make a connection somehow across or under, whatever, to get our kids to the 2 schools over there. And I think that would be a way to make that happen, grants are grants. So, you know, continuing to search for that.
Does anyone want to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve.
One quick question
Go ahead.
about the
Go ahead.
maintenance aspect.
We will be responsible for maintaining going forward. Yeah.
We are responsible for it.
Yes, we
How
are.
are we gonna budget that? In the 24, 25, every,
We won't have to budget for it every year. We don't have to, I mean, it says you may have to plow it, but we don't have to plow it. So it'd be one that needs to be repaired at some point.
That's typically how it works.
Moved by trustee Tanucci.
Second.
This would be with the amount that's 39,789.
Amend it with that.
Right, with the larger amended amount.
Yep.
That's still an estimate, though, I mean.
It's still an estimate, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Seconded by trustee Kritzmeyer. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Trustee Chris Meyer.
Aye.
Trustee
No, thank you.
Trustee Jamil?
Aye.
Trustee O'Connor?
All right, motion carried.
And just as a point of information, even if we had approved this several months ago, the cost still would have increased, because it would have been, you know, whatever it is.
I'll tell that to my neighbor
Everything went way down.
across Diamond Lake Road that we thrilled. Thank you.
You know, if I could just quickly.
Yeah.
I was in the city today, around late afternoon, kids are getting out of school. And they put, signs on the road, stop for pedestrians, and I cannot tell you how many cars I watched ignore it because they're used to ignoring it because nobody's there. But it was kids getting out of school. And I thought, this is how it happens. Diamond Lake Road is worse than, well, Arlington Heights Road, I think, is worse than Diamond Lake.
Oh, yeah.
You can at least see them coming at you on Diamond Lake. You know, on 83 to get some drifts, you know.
I keep waiting to get rear-ended, because I am the person who stops, and then everybody behind me is like, right?
Right, we didn't expect you to stop, right? Yeah,
So next item on the agenda is discussion, consideration, approval of resolution approving a second amendment to the intergovernmental agreement for building inspections and plan review between the Village of Bronzeville and the Village of Levelland. Village Manager Jackson, do you want to take us through this, or any?
Last meeting, the village board approved the increase for planning and zoning services. Mundelein has come back with an increase, because of cost of doing business, inflation increase, for building inspections, code enforcement. The rates are laid out as, single-family inspections from $40 to $45, commercial, industrial, multifamily, 80 to 90, code enforcement, 80 to 90. Plan review for projects, 40 to 50, and then anything outside normal business, 120 to 135. Seldom, I don't think once has it, we haven't had a fire or anything along those lines where I had to call in building inspectors, so we haven't had much, after hours. So, we'd ask the board to make a motion to approve. This is also, a 90-day, should we find other options out there, down the line, this is a 90-day, termination clause in this agreement as well.
how does this factor in for people who already have permits?
Doesn't. The permits pending are we going to charge them more for their permits? No.
It's our cost, not,
It's
it's our cost, and we don't necessarily pass it. We got our rate, it's our cost of goods sold.
we don't pass this along.
We would build it.
Take into our rate,
Right,
so we'll just get a little different outcome from it.
exactly.
What, did you say what the estimated increase in total costs are gonna be?
No.
No, you didn't, okay.
That would require forecasting.
Yeah, and it's.
So, but what is the, I mean, is it, but what's the actual percentage overall, just take a typical rate? Is it only up like 5% or something?
10%.
Is it 10%?
10%.
10%, okay. So we're talking about a 10% increase.
10% rounding to the nearest 5 probably.
And in the budget for that line item, do you recall what dollar amount we have?
$75,000.
How much?
75.
75,000. So we're talking about that line item in the budget would go up 7,500. So that's an approximation of what we're talking about.
But our contract went up more than that.
Yes, our contract went from 65 to 100, and this is going from to the president's 75 to 82.5.
So I don't know if that gives people something to work with. Just trying to-
So we may potentially have to modify our rates in recognition of the fact that our costs have gone up.
Which is also part of what we're doing in this whole.
Right.
Right, but you've already done that deep dive on, some go down if they go to the web, which I see is about 50% now,
It's
55
yeah, it's been, and the
for the ones that are eligible.
the people who are responding to online applications is significant.
That's right.
So, is this negotiable at all, or is it a take it or leave it deal?
It's pretty much a take, leave it.
All right, then move to approve, let's move on.
Second.
Okay, so moved by trustee Borowski, seconded by trustee Kritzmeyer. Roll call, please.
Aye.
Trustee Kritzmeyer?
Aye.
Trustee Jamil?
Aye.
Trustee O'Connor? Aye. Trustee Canucci?
Aye.
I'd like to say, though, to trustee Borowski's, we're still looking at other options.
Yeah, of course.
Motion carried. Okay, so moving right along, this will be the third year. Lake County Symphony Orchestra has put an application for a community grant in, for a concert again on the 4th of July at the brewery. You have the application in your packet. I will open it up to discussion or thoughts. And, Kat's smiling over there. Trustee Canucci, what do you have?
This is only in violation of 4 clauses of our community grant policy. So grants are not supposed to be used to cover salaries. 8,500 to the 10,000 would be earmarked for wages. It is primarily to serve the residents of Long Grove. However, the symphony orchestra primarily serves populations outside of Long Grove. Also, the guidelines state the funds are intended to be used to support Long Grove-based community groups, service organizations, and not-for-profit organizations. The orchestra is based in Zion, not Long Grove. And perhaps most importantly, although the orchestra itself is nonprofit, the $10,000 of public funds will directly benefit one particular for-profit business by attracting potentially hundreds of customers to their premises to buy their products. Now, of course, we support all local businesses, but we don't pick winners by using public funds to pay people to show up at one specific business to spend money at that business. So I believe this grant is completely inappropriate.
So can I move to deny the request?
Can I make a, just,
Yeah, please, okay, yep.
did you have something? I'm sorry.
He said he seconded it, deny it.
Oh, with respect, I think one of the things, I'm not gonna support this either, but I do want to have it on the record. I think that this is an event that makes sense for Long Grove. I think the thing we need to be looking at things like salary and so forth. Musicians don't have salaries. They work on a gig thing, so any cost is always gonna have gig wages in there. That's just the nature of that business. So
Is
that,
that a semantic difference?
But it's not a Long Grove entity, correct?
It's not- Yeah, so that's one of the 4 things.
yeah, the thing is, I would like to see somebody in Lake County support this. To your point, okay, Zion was one thing, they were being supported by Grays Lake. I think this event makes sense for Long Grove. I think it's patriotic, it brings a lot of people into the downtown. I do think the point about coming in on July 4th, if other businesses were all open on July 4th, that would be more persuasive for me, and I think that becomes a challenge. So I do agree with that point, it becomes more of a challenge. I think the character of it, I think, if we could figure out if we would like to, as a village, support this, just as a support item, not within the grant, and save that grant money for something else. I think that's a fair conversation, but I just wanted to make that comment. I do think that, we've talked about reviewing the grant policy, and there's tweaks, and there's always, I don't wanna see our grant policy get really super detailed because of things like the nature of their salary, the cost structure for people in that kind of system.
So we have 3 no's. We haven't heard, from Trustee O'Connor yet. Do you have any thoughts?
I'm in agreement with.
All right, so we have a live motion on the table. No, he did. Oh, no, he seconded, it was moved by Trustee Borowski, seconded by Trustee
So the
Jamil.
motion was to deny.
To deny, yeah.
So a yes vote means no.
Yes.
No grant.
Yeah, roll call, please, yeah, please, to
Trustee
basically
Borowski.
deny it, yeah.
Trustee Jamil.
Yeah, you're gonna vote, right? No? Or yes, you're gonna vote yes.
You're gonna vote yes.
Yeah, you're gonna vote yes, yeah, to deny.
Yeah, the motion is to deny.
Yeah, okay. So you're a yes to deny. Okay.
Okay. Trustee Chris Meyer?
Here, aye.
Okay, let's clarify. So the motion was to deny the petition.
The motion is to deny, so all those in favor?
So a yes vote.
In favor of denying.
Yes vote, so.
Denying the
Yeah.
non-Long Grove entity. That's my point.
Right.
And
Thank you.
he based the class 4
So you're,
issue.
okay, so the motion got turned backwards, right? So we're,
No, it didn't.
so a yes means basically you're denying it. Are you,
It means in agreement with denial.
are you, denying it? Yes. Okay, aye. So, all right, so we, just take them all over again.
I got it. I got it.
Then I say nay. But since I seconded him, so it will be nay.
I got it, okay. Trustee O'Connor? Okay.
So what are the,
Trustee Janucci?
no, it's a nay means yes, so,
A nay means you support it.
yeah.
No, I don't support.
Then
So you
vote-
need to vote aye.
Then it's
Okay,
Turned it around.
It's yes to it.
So we,
Okay, can
I tell you what,
can we withdraw the petition and start over?
start over, so,
Ordinarily, it's best to present the motion in the positive, and then you can know whether you're approved. We don't have the double negative.
so how about this?
It's a motion to approve.
Does anyone want to make a motion to approve?
You know, we're not spending any money here. You can just do a voice vote.
Yeah, no, well, just hold on. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve? If not,
nay,
yeah, so if not, then
I'm clear on that.
And it does.
it's not approved.
How about you, right?
Yeah, right.
So I'll withdraw my
Motion.
motion, and if you would withdraw yours, you need to withdraw the
Yes,
second?
he does.
I would withdraw it. Yes.
Okay, so the thing dies.
So the thing, guys, no one's supporting it. No one's going to provide a motion to approve. We're not approving it.
And it just lays.
Just wait. Okay? You good with that?
So, not to belabor the point, but if we were to make a motion to deny it and actually do that, then we've reached a decision. When you let it lay, it's kind of in the ether there.
No, it's
We
something
haven't really
that
denied
dies for lack of a motion or second is pretty much as dead as if you voted
So,
down.
purposes, the motion was moved by Chris to deny.
Yes,
Then I seconded it. That means I'm in support of that denial.
yes,
Right.
So why are we taking vote again?
we're not.
The motion.
It was a live motion, so we needed to
The
vote on
motion's
it.
been withdrawn.
Yeah,
There is no motion to approve this grant, which means there's no action to be taken by the board. This issue is a dead letter.
Your second only just said we're moving to have a vote. You still have to vote
You still
again.
need to vote on the motion.
So if nobody moves, we don't even have a vote.
The matter is concluded with a failure to.
So the matter is pending now, as of now.
Correct.
yeah.
Not saying yes or no.
Well, we pretty much are saying no,
Well,
because
it's been on the agenda, it's not gonna come back again.
no one here on the board supporting it,
So
so
it's effectively denied.
denied, yeah.
And it said, it is a.
And even if you voted no, you could still come back and put it back on the agenda.
That
later date.
kind of event really fits.
Yeah. All right, so that was fun. Let's have an equally fun one. Let's talk about food trucks. Discussion of draft ordinance regulating food trucks. I mean, we're kind of, we have a little bit of a challenge right now because disaster declaration ends, what, Friday? Thursday. So, right now, everything's covered because, disaster declaration, you pretty much gave me authority to approve things like this. And we have no food truck ordinance, in our village code. So we have to have something because there's food trucks operating in our village. So, Greg's drafted an ordinance up, put it in a resolution, and put it in front of you all. And I don't know if you want to make some comments?
Yeah, I shared this with Vic. Vic is, still reviewing the language. I brought it to the board. I've gotten some feedback from the board members, but it's kind of, let's put it out there and have the discussion. And first of all, is it someplace the board wants to go? Second of all, if it is this language something that, is acceptable or needs to be modified? So on July 24th, 2018, the village board approved the pilot food truck program. And that program expired, based on that ordinance on, January 31st of 2019. There has been no subsequent program that's been, codified or put in any form such as, an ordinance. And, to President Jacobs' point, COVID came in, a lot of latitude was offered to keep businesses coming in, and COVID came in a little bit after this. Food trucks were allowed to operate during the pandemic. The governor's declaration expires on Thursday, has been pointed out. And, but I think from all accounts, there's still a desire to allow food trucks to operate in town. In the interest of providing, and this whole food truck ordinance also came about, because Buffalo Creek was having difficulty, attracting, food vendors to support them. In the interest of providing public health and safety, to ensure sales tax remittance to Long Grove, and to achieve some sort of equity with the brick and mortar businesses, I provided this first draft of the ordinance. The language presented is a melding of items applicable to Long Grove from the 2018 pilot program and various municipal ordinances enacted, including data aggregation from Antioch, Barrington, Highwood, Island Lake, Lake Forest Lake, Zurich, Lindenhurst, Waukegan, Woodstock, Buffalo Grove, and Crystal Lake. I took pieces out of that, found some similarities from village to village. Talked to the HDLGBA, Ryan, who said he was in favor of some kind of ordinance to regulate the food trucks. Talked to a couple restaurant owners who were also in favor, believing that if they had to permit for brick and mortar, that a food truck coming into town that could be potential competition for them should also be regulated. The pros of the food trucks are additional tax revenues coming in from the outside. I had suggested a $100 annual permit fee that food trucks could operate for a year without having to go back and refile. They still have to do what they need to do at Lake County and other entities. But I would recommend to the board that if it's a food truck coming from one of our businesses, our brick and mortars, that we would waive that permit because they're already paying taxes and supporting the village. Cons from on food trucks. If Chatterbox has a food truck, we wouldn't charge them for a permit if the village tavern.
I see. We've already charged them for a business license.
I see.
The cons on food trucks that I found a constant theme, it takes potential of taking away from local businesses who've made significant investments into brick and mortar. If it's not regulated, the old, you give an inch and they take a mile can come into play, and then you're trying to herd cats when you've got a Naperville was one who said they had a significant problem with that.
I know what it's like to try to herd cats.
Yep. And then there's equity for permitting with the restaurants. There's some kind of regulatory when we put this stance on restaurants for public safety, health, and tax remittance. The one business is in opposition to it. One business said that they believe that food trucks will no longer come into town if we have to regulate them or collect sales tax. Bottom line on the sales tax is we have no choice but to collect sales tax. We have that obligation. We do. But to have them register would be inconvenient and dissuade them from coming into town. I would differ with that. I think if the business is there, they are going to come into town, and we're only asking them to register once. And then ask, and let us know, the business owner to let us know when they're gonna be in town so we can verify the registration.
Did anybody you speak with talk about, the opportunity of food trucks as an opportunity for businesses or restaurants to do testing?
And I asked the question of proof of concept, and do they end up going into your town? A very small percentage.
Okay.
A lot of food trucks do it because it's less expensive than having a brick and mortar. And then if they get multiple food trucks, they get on their feet, and then where they operate, we've got food trucks that have come into our town that operate in a dozen different municipalities. So for us to be the municipality of choice, depends what's there, I guess.
I mean, I've seen, venues that are they're an open place. If Brothers Field does something like this, we could actually do it on our own, or they could do it at the fire station or Lemon Field, but where you've got large outdoor games or a live band, and then they have a menu of 4 food trucks.
Ravinia does that.
Yeah, and then super attractive to people younger than me, which I'd like to see.
Yeah, and so, those are options that, as we see this program, if the board decides to move forward with an ordinance, or it's something that could be looked at down the line as a potential for growth. Also, we found, I'll speak to Ravinia because I live in Highland Park, is the fact that it ends up signaling on that day, that Thursday, it's a destination, so you're bringing people into town that not normally have been into town. So, the regulations desirable and what was consistent with the other municipalities that I looked at were licensing and caps, permitting, food safety, verificate the benefits of this. The ability to verify that the truck operator is registered with the Department of Health, tax ID requirements so we can collect sales tax that would be due to us, We control the hours that they can operate and where they can operate, and make sure that they are properly insured. If we don't have that ordinance but still allow food trucks to operate, it puts us outside the code, first of all, because we don't have anything to let them operate, but, you know, it gives us a little more control. And I believe we can do this without it being, inconvenient for the operator, a one-time permit, and then to turn around and make sure that they file their, do their sales tax remittance. I don't think it'll be a significant inconvenience, so I differ with the business owner who said, trucks won't come in.
They file their sales tax.
When they get the permit for us, we get their sales tax numbers. They are obligated to file their sales tax, and then we audit to make sure that they did.
It's a
File
tool,
with the state, right?
it's a tool with IDOR,
Yeah.
online tool.
Well, let's open it up for comments, and I don't know which side of the room wants to start. I won't look at you unless you're ready to go, Chris.
I'm ready to go. My concern, the hours of operation is midnight on Fridays and Saturdays. That kind of conflicts with some of the other things we've been doing and trying to limit the time, you know. I think the 11 o'clock number is when our sheriff goes off duty. I'd really like to stick with that. Is there a limit on number of trucks that we allow at any one given time?
That's what I was hoping I'd get from the board, what they were comfortable with. I thought if we were looking at the historic downtown, which is what the pilot program was focused on, I think on Sunset too, I would say having, with the Stemple lot or on the property, because right now I think they're doing it on Buffalo Creek's property itself. I think to have more than 2 or 3 would probably be too much. That's just my first thought. But I can't, there's no way of judging.
Yeah, I was gonna say more than 1 or 2, but.
I was gonna say, 8 people like variety, like they see a lineup of food trucks, they're like, oh, I wanna go see.
But, and then the question is, where do we put them?
Yeah, and
Around the back where the bus lanes are that confuse people in Stemple.
And the hours and numbers, from staff standpoint, the issue of permitting, regulating, and collecting the sales tax, the key, I think whatever the board wants to do with numbers and hours.
how does a food truck differ than like a catering truck? You know, we're calling out, may not operate on private property, or private property other than residential. So what if a resident wanted to put food trucks up and have a big old party on their 3.5-acre buckhorn infested land?
I think we could do that I think we could do that if they wanted to along like a special event, because we were just talking about block parties.
Yeah, I think that the general regulations on food trucks doesn't necessarily have to cover over or carry over to the residential properties. We can handle those in a separate box, if you will.
So if I wanna have a pig roast on my property that's outside of this,
Is it in a truck?
Well, it'd be.
Yes,
Well, it
I'd have
could be a
somebody-
truck, right? I mean, it could
Yeah,
be.
a truck or two.
I mean, I guess I just don't know what the difference is between a catering vehicle.
Well, I think the difference is that the one is looking for general public access, the other one is really intended for identified guests. And I think we can treat it differently.
So if a church had an event on a Sunday morning where they brought in a catering truck for the church members,
not the general public, yeah.
not the general public.
The question about the fees here, is that a waiver for the long grow businesses or uniformly $100 for the permit?
I'm sorry, Dr. Tramiel.
The fee structure, it says it is annually for $100 unless the applicant is a long grow licensed business.
Yeah, if you're a Long Grove licensed business, it's zero.
Zero?
Zero.
You're already paying license fees for your sixth place of business, your restaurant.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
So that way you're not.
just to clarify, we can change that number if we wanna change that number,
Right.
so.
Other questions? Trustee Kritzmeyer?
I sent some, earlier to Greg, if the program may be terminated at any time by the village, I thought we should put some lead time in that if people are making plans and calendars. Of course, somebody can be terminated for cause immediately, that's a different thing, but if we cease the whole program, I think we should give, 30 days lead time or something. To their, question about time for setup is 8 hours during a 24-hour, basically if you go from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., that's 12 hours, so just some consistency on the time. We've got, I don't know if you'll catch, just, there's noise regulation, item M and item P seem duplicative, I don't know, but overall, I think, I'd like to see us move forward with it.
Okay.
Whether this is the exact language, but I think it's close.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. I'll move on this side of the room. Trustee Jamil,
What is it?
do you have any feedback for it or any thoughts? No?
At this moment.
Trustee Tanucci?
I already have my statement.
Okay.
No other questions?
Trustee O'Connor?
Just a housekeeping question. Who inspects the trucks and how often?
Fire department inspects for fire code and health department inspects for health. It's on their call.
Oh, so it's random?
Yeah, lately, they've been coming out to here when Brothers Field has had events. So they've been doing a regular, look at those. But, it's on them because it's not, those issues for enforcement, it's, first of all, out of our bailiwick, so to speak. And
We don't have a health department.
Right.
And can we make the permit conditional on that, coming back to us and saying, yeah, the fire department looks at our truck and it's not gonna be.
well, we do it for the health, but,
Okay,
yeah, and then we have it listed in there for fire.
just listed though, it's.
No, as a requirement.
We have to have an
required.
annual
Okay,
inspection,
sorry.
yep.
Okay.
And if they have hefty bags full of rubbish,
They have to supply the, containers in order to dispose of everything. They take it with them.
oh, I see. They don't, okay.
Unless they talk to the brewery or Brothers Field and say, can I put it in your dumpster? But, yeah, it's,
Okay, that's an interesting point. How about not reusable, but, landfill-free,
Compostable, is that what you're saying, compostable things?
well,
Or reusable?
compostable, yeah, compostable.
we can add that in there.
Right, that would make sense, wouldn't it? I mean, generating trash.
Fixed with our village, too.
Yeah, right.
I agree with Dan. You mentioned 2 or 3, and I picture Archer or Stemple with 5 or 6 of them, which draws more people. It's like, when you see only 2 or 3, it's like, on the toilet, tacos, burgers, and maybe lobster, if it's Lobster Thursday somewhere, but.
Tell me where that is. I don't know if I want lobster from a truck or not.
Pierogi and sauerkraut,
They come to Lake Zurich like every 3 weeks of, the city.
I would just offer this for the board's consideration, that if we were to look like a Ravinia type night where you've got 6 to 8 different trucks out there, I would confine it to one night. My bigger concern on that is also protecting our brick and mortar businesses.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, but like a Thursday night or Wednesday night, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we could put it in the newsletter too, but.
Yeah.
Well, there's no, barely any restaurant service on Monday nights, so that's a perfect time for it.
That's true.
There is that.
Yeah,
But
sometimes,
yeah, something like,
yeah.
is that language feasible, normally, up to two or three, except for one night a week, we'd go up to 8 or whatever.
Food truck night.
Yeah, maybe the merchants would stay open that night as well,
So what are you looking for tonight?
I've been taking notes on
So are you planning to bring back before the board at the next meeting,
fresh language and get Vic's legalese on it, and then bring it back before the board.
everyone okay with
I
that?
hope the trucks are interested enough, that'd be done.
Well, that's the other thing, how do we?
Well, if you make it too complicated, so that's the other thing, we may not get anyone. And I can tell you that I'm one of the ones that likes to go to the brewery and has had my challenges getting food there, so. In fact, Domino's Pizza charged me an out-of-area delivery charge to go to Buffalo Creek once,
No
so.
way, no way.
They had,
That was across the road?
they had no idea where it was, yes, on Historic Lane when they first opened up, and I got an out of it. I'm like, really? That's a pretty steep charge to go across the street. So it's been an interesting experience, but I'm
Yeah.
one that,
It was double cheese.
I love beer, so I tend to order food there a lot, so.
It was
I'm
double,
with you, I'm just.
Is that what it was? Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to reiterate, kind of building on what Chris was saying, we need to distinguish between food trucks and catering. And specifically, we don't want to prevent a nonprofit organization or religious institution, whatever it may be, from having an event that serves their members,
Yeah.
their population. Because, you know, we talked about commercial versus private, well, there's this third category, churches, nonprofits.
Got it.
That makes total sense.
Whatever it may be, Hindu temples, whatever,
I got it.
But they wouldn't be on village property.
be on their private property. Oh, this is only about village property.
No, it's regulating it across the board.
Okay.
So Vic can handle that
Yeah.
in his language. So,
That's a valid point.
So if we can, then I'd like to get this in front of the board at the next meeting.
everyone okay with that?
And if we can get an advance copy so you can digest it a little bit more before the meeting too, that may.
No pun intended.
Yeah, that's right.
So how do the food truck operators get word that Long Grove is looking?
Well, we'd have to communicate it to our businesses, first of all, to let them know that if a food truck's coming in, they have to permit through us. And then if they were gonna come on public property, they would probably reach out to Village Hall anyway. But most of the food trucks, or all the food trucks we've had in town, have been doing it on private property. So, we will communicate it to the businesses in town that, if you're gonna use it, this ordinance has been adopted.
We're not actively seeking, going out and seeking.
I'd love to do that.
Why not? It's an economic development.
There are ways to reach out to the food truck industry to let them know that you're here.
Walk up to the window.
That's right.
All right, anything else on this one? If not, I'm gonna keep moving. So this is the village president trustee reports. I'll just let you know, I attended the Lake County Council Mayor's meeting last Thursday. The presentation was given by CMAP, addressing an expected budget shortfall of $730 million in 2026 that our transit agencies are facing. Ridership is still down from the pre-pandemic levels, and the COVID relief funding is expiring, so they're getting COVID dollars. So there was Public Act 102-1028 was approved, and they approved a task force to allow CMAP to develop some legislative recommendations on the region's transit system, what to do. The code name is PART, Plan of Action, and what they're gonna be looking is studying the financial viability, funding, ridership experience, governance, and community economic development, as it relates to public transportation, and basically in this Chicago area, right, basically in the Chicago area. So I put in the board packet the material that was handed out, presentation and a brochure and flyer and stuff like that, so that it's in, under my report. It doesn't, I probably should have created a new folder, but if you go on the shared drive and you look under the village president's report, you'll see it up there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So that's all I have on my report, but, it is interesting. It was, there was no discussion though about is ridership gonna increase? So I'm sure that'll come out of it. So I didn't really get a chance to ask them, well, what if we suddenly see a spike in ridership, then does it change things? But
It's going up,
Yeah.
on the three lines that, that basically, substitute for the Kennedy.
okay,
It was on the radio because anybody who's driven on that, and I've taken those lines like maybe once a week or so, but
yeah. So who knows? I mean, it didn't
since March.
really come out of it, but it's, again, they're studying it and they're supposed to deliver a report, I think, at the end of the year.
Yeah, but the spike is from the depressed levels.
Right. So that's all I have for my report. I'll just go down the list here. Trustee Borowski.
Nothing to report, thank you.
I'm sure maybe you do. Trustee Jamil, do you have a report?
Well, I don't have any report, this is my first meeting, but I have a representation from our subdivision to the village manager and the clerk, maybe I can submit it later,
Sure.
about, having to construct the right turn only lane. I'll discuss with you later. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Kritzmeyer.
We talked earlier, we had the tax increment finance districts, the two different, annual joint review boards were yesterday morning. Those are, probably take me as long to describe them as it took to have them. But we have to have them every year. We invite all the taxing bodies that are affected by the tax increment finance. We've never gotten more than 2 taxing bodies there. Generally, they just come to sort of say, hey, are we doing what we said we would do with the TIF district? We did have one a couple of years ago, Lake County noted that we're trying to encourage development, like the Archer lots, things like that in downtown, and could they partner with us on education for the restaurant industry? So that was a nice thing, which, you know, kind of like extra credit stuff that we don't have time for, but would really like to do. So we did both of those yesterday. And we'll do it again next year. End of report.
Thank you for that report. Trustee O'Connor.
No report.
Trustee Tanucci.
No report.
Village Manager, Jackson.
Nope.
All right, then, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Trustee O'Connor, second by Trustee Kritzmeyer. Roll call, please.
Trustee O'Connor. Aye. Trustee Kritzmeyer.
Aye.
Trustee Borowski.
Aye.
Trustee Jimmy.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, get everyone?
Do you
I'll be here at the next meeting.
You're not gonna be here at the next meeting?
Nope.
Okay, meeting adjourned? Meeting adjourned.